wasn't sure how much time had passed by, but I heard sounds signaling that Lisa had come back. It had gotten quite dark outside, and I just realized that I had been in my own world picking out stocks with the lights still off. I guess this was all I could really do, but I think my concentration level wasn't all that bad. My body made some crackling sounds as I stretched, and I headed for the living room while taking a break. At that instant, I smelled something delicious. My eyes turned unconsciously towards the kitchen. Agana was in the middle of setting some Chinese food on the table. While wondering about when they had the time to cook, I noticed a large takeout basket under the table. Delivery? Lisa, who was taking out small serving plates from the cabinet, chuckled at my question. Leftovers. Well, it's part of the reason why I work there. Well, I don't mind. As someone who constantly paid and ate lunch at the Lunar Chinese restaurant, I had mixed feelings about this, but I had no qualms with the price and the taste. I quickly took my place at the table, but Agana, who was still taking out food from the basket, stared unequivocally at me. Why aren't you helping? Because you didn't ask. I lifted my hands up in a shrug to tease her, and she furrowed her brows. I was grinning smugly at my revenge for all the things she did to me when she delivered a surprise attack. Help out. Normally in these situations, wasn't she just going to swallow those words silently in irritation? At least I had expected that she'd be all pissed off, look down, and ignore me while she continued with the preparations. It seemed that Lisa also had the same thoughts. I guess Agana was really a tough customer. While thinking about that, I got even more daggers from Agana's eyes. They were saying, I asked you, so get to work now. I shrugged, got up from my chair, and set the plates and chopsticks I got from Lisa on the table. Lisa stared at the two of us intently. Well then, let's give our thanks to the Lord and Mr. Wong from the restaurant. With Lisa's words, dinner commenced. Basically, the food used plenty of ingredients that were on the verge of going bad, but there was pretty much no difference in taste. In fact, it was delicious. We polished off items that generally came in combo sets like twice-cooked pork, bell pepper pork stir-fry, and egg rolls. So what'd you do all day? Lisa asked us just as Agana used her chopsticks to block me from taking a third shumai from a platter that originally held 6. Before I could respond to Agana's "don't you know" division, Lisa used her own chopsticks to place a shumai each in Agana's plate and mine. Agana and I both looked back at Lisa, telling her that it was her share, but Lisa replied with "we must share what we have with," and a smile. Apparently it was written in the Bible or something. I shrugged and popped the shumai in my mouth. Agana, who was more hesitant, ended up eating hers as well. Well, with that, I answered Lisa's question honestly. Went to Newton City. For what? To scope the place out for a bank heist. Lisa broke into laughter and treated it as nonsense, but I was surprised that Agana was totally shocked. It's a joke. With my reply, Agana's expression changed from one of surprise to one of irritation, and she looked down. She was, for some reason, a bit dense when it came to certain things. So, the real reason? I liked those treats. That wasn't a lie. I munched on the salty pickled vegetables and then took a drink from my teacup. It's a bit too lively for me. It's that liveliness that brings out my drive. I chomped down a third of my egg roll. I chomped down half of my third egg roll and then realized Agana was staring at me. Yeah, they have these backwards. Oh, there was only 6 of them to begin with. Lisa noticed us and quickly put one on Agana's plate. I heard that Agana only had this kind of appetite when it came to Chinese food. I don't know what you're doing with that drive, but in either case, that's pretty good. I became a little humble when faced with Lisa's smile. I was wondering if she was making fun of me, but she had the usual carefree smile. Well, since I did provide you shelter, I'd obviously be happy if you rested up and did your best. Oh, really? It's kind of pointless if you don't put in the effort yourself. I guess? It's true, this is the moon after all. There's no point being here if you didn't work hard. If you wanted to just cruise along leisurely, then you could have done it on Earth. That's great. This is the moon after all. Lisa even mimicked my voice, causing me to choke on a piece of pork I'd been eating. She was enjoying herself happily, but she was troubled in a different way from Agana. Alright then, what about you, Agana? What did you do today? perhaps satisfied with the usual teasing, Lisa had turned to Agana and asked her what she did. I was also keenly interested in the reply. I wondered what she was doing all holed up in her room. She made no sound and occasionally got up to go to the bathroom. Agana slowly finished her pepper pork stir-fry as if she couldn't decide whether it was tasty or not, and then she replied unhurriedly. The same as usual. It was terribly blunt, but Lisa wasn't put off by it. So you got up, ate your meal, and hung up the laundry to dry, and then returned to my room to work on problems. Problems, I thought to myself. The whole time? I went to the bathroom once during the morning and continued to work on problems after getting back. So, did you solve them? 8 of them were pretty quick, but 4 of them took relatively longer. I see. That's pretty rare for 4 of them to be that difficult. Difficult? Well, I wouldn't say that, but I think they were excellent problems. Agana spoke with her eyes closed as if she were pondering the problems again. Lisa broke out in laughter seeing Agana like this. You really do like them, don't you? Agana opened her eyes and slowly turned towards Lisa. And then a small blush developed on her cheeks. Lisa was beaming with an unparalleled smile at Agana's response. I kind of felt like I was watching a doting parent, but I couldn't say I couldn't understand a little of Lisa's feelings. I was also taken in by Agana's reply, coupled with her rare show of embarrassment and her slight blush. I couldn't help feeling a sense of defeat. Then again, she did look pretty decent if she kept quiet. Besides, given that she normally only showed me either a sour face or a face of disdain, I ended up rationalizing with no one in particular that I couldn't help it. So, what are we talking about? Bothered by my internal conflicts, I tried to distract myself by saying something. Besides, I was really curious. Oh, we're talking about math. Math? You don't even know math? Agana stopped smiling and asked in response out of what appeared to be surprise instead of belittlement. As if I was being made fun of, I lowered my voice and replied, Of course I know. Haven't I mentioned it before? Agana's very good at math. If it were just math, she'd be totally able to attend Lunar City University right now. Every year, elite students from all over Earth come to attend Lunar City University. Even I knew how difficult it must be to get into such a place. So you were working on the entrance exams? She already finished those. Right now, what was it you were working on again? On page 424 of Lloyd F. Steele's Mathematical Theorems. She replied immediately while drinking her soup. Oh yeah, but you're already 400 pages in? In terms of the history of math, it's still stuff from several hundred years in the past. I had no clue what they were talking about. I didn't think Agana would actually explain it to me, and I'd be annoyed if I had to ask. Thus, I turned my gaze towards Lisa. Lisa, being her perceptive self, explained it to me with a smile. It's a digital copy I borrowed from a university of a classic book on mathematics. It's a bizarre book that has collected tons of mathematical theorems. 5,621 theorems. Agana snuck in a word while obsessively trying to split a steam bun in half. We both turned to look at Agana, then exchanged slight glances with each other. And so she's trying to rederive proofs for all of these theorems. Rederive? For example, with the Pythagorean theorem, you try to figure out on your own how to prove it. In other words, reconstructing the history of math built up over the past several millennia. Wow. Assuming it were true, I'd have no choice but to say awesome to that. I'd probably be able to at least half forgive the way she looked down on me. In that case, why not just attend the university? With my super logical utterance, Lisa and Agana both looked at me with pity. What? Even if it's just one subject, a totally ace would give you a free pass in, right? It's not like there's age restrictions, right? There are no age limits, and tuition can be covered by a scholarship, but there is a problem, right? My mind was blank for a bit after Lisa's words, but eventually I got it. That's right, Agana's a runaway. But limitations due to parents/legal guardians, etc. only apply until she becomes an adult. Life is long, so might as well take it easy in the meantime, right? Lisa smiled at Agana. Agana's nod at those words was filled with an aura of earnestness. Seems that people have their reasons. I shrugged and drank some egg drop soup. So, that's all you two did today? What do you mean, all we did today? Well, for some reason, after I came back, it seemed that there's been developments in how you treat each other. The soup in my mouth was inches from being spewed out. The heck was that supposed to be? I kind of feel like something happened between you two that I don't know about. Would you care to fill me in? This woman sure loves to dig into details, even at the restaurant. This woman? Lisa asked back, full of smiles. However, those were certainly not smiles of happiness. I thought back to the last time I had stepped on this landmine. You sure love to dig into details. Yep, well, it's kind of like a job to me. Wait, a job? Never heard of a strange job like that. Well, it's kind of strange to call it a job. My duty? Well, something like that. It's not like I like doing it, you know. She said that, but it had to be a hobby. Besides, she herself could seem to be saying those words seriously. Wait, I'm getting sidetracked. Well, nothing really happened. Oh wait, when I got back from Newton City... When I got that far in my sentence, there was a racket under the table. That was because I kicked up. If you were to ask me why, it was because my opponent kicked my shins with all her might. Ow! What the hell are you doing, bitch? It was so abrupt that an angry yell was the most I could muster. While Lisa's eyes were wide open with surprise, I was surprised too. I didn't strike back immediately, not because I thought Lisa would get angry, but because I had no idea what the heck was going on. Hey, Agana, what are you doing? Lisa asked a question, but Agana turned away and stayed silent. What, is she a kid? That type of behavior really makes her seem like a stubborn brat. Rubbing my shins, I was wondering whether she didn't want me to talk about it. I couldn't figure out exactly what would make her want to avoid that at all costs. What? So something did happen? Well, there was that. As I was about to begin, Agana glared at me. However, Lisa held Agana back with her arms. And with that, Agana looked like she was about to cry. I was surprised that Agana would be so against my telling the story, but it appeared Lisa wasn't so. I could see it from Agana's expression. With a light sigh, Lisa looked at me with a tired expression. Mr. Toyama came, I guess. Toyama? He didn't come here to collect on a debt? Agana tried her best to stop Lisa, but once those words came out, the strength left her as if the end of the world had come. He sure did, and did you know? I was about to detail the ruckus that happened after I got back to the church, but then my eyes met Agana's. Those eyes were filled with supplication. I was more than a little surprised at such a pompous egotist being able to make such a face. Making Toyama fly off the walls had probably happened once or twice before, and I didn't think Lisa had condoned such behavior. My heart wasn't so shrilled as to totally rule out staying quiet after seeing such a humble entreaty from Agana. And did I know what? I took the receipt from my pocket and handed it to the expectant Lisa. I paid off the interest for you, so pay me back later. Staring for a few seconds at the 200-rule receipt she had set on the table, Lisa looked at me with a sigh. So now I owe you instead. Much better than that baldy, right? Lisa knew she shouldn't laugh, but couldn't hold back. She then took the receipt. Well, Mr. Toyama also has a hard time, you know. Well, he does look kind of unfortunate. Hey. I shrugged unnaturally at Lisa's remark and worked on the rest of the stir-fry. I knew she had put 200 rolls in the cabinet, but I looked at Lisa's face when she held the receipt. I didn't feel like telling her to get that out. I thought maybe I did something stupid, but if the time came, I could always just ask her to nullify the rent. I stuffed my stomach full of pork and peppers and belched during my next words. Well, just pay it back when you can. I also owe some favors, too. Well, if you could put things more appropriately, you'd probably be popular with the girls, you know. I snickered and drank my tea. I was even a little ashamed of myself for wondering if that's what I was missing. I'll pay you back soon. Well, how soon would depend on that. Lisa chuckled weakly, and Agana was definitely glaring at me after seeing Lisa's expression. She probably thought that I didn't deserve any thanks, but reason didn't really fly with this girl. Thanks for dinner. I paid no heed to Agana, got up from my chair, and went back to my room. After dark, I continued to watch the news and read up on stocks, puzzling over my avenue of attack for tomorrow when there was a knock on my door. I figured it must be Lisa, since she'd actually do the proper thing. As expected, her voice came through the door. Are you asleep? I'm not a grade schooler, you know. Well, aren't you kind of like one? Well, I'd probably look at it that way from the point of view of an auntie like you. What? Aunt? So, in case you're wondering right there, most likely he called her Oba-chan in Japanese, which is... It's translated roughly to auntie, but it's definitely supposed to convey age of the person. You'd use that to someone significantly older than you. So that's why she took offense to that. So, what's up? I got a surprising amount of reaction. I figured I'd manage to pay her back for all the time she treated me like a kid. Lisa was about to say something, but muttered it to herself and stayed at her business. Got time to come up here? What? Lisa answered me after looking over at the living room. At least while Agana was in the bath. Well, okay, I guess. Wait a sec. I closed my computer, putting it to password lock sleep mode, and headed out into the hallway. You're surprisingly methodical. A man needs his share of secrets to survive. Right, right. Lisa walked out and I followed her. Using the unreliable light from the diode lamp to guide our way, we headed up the steep stairs. The courtyard I saw during the day was lit by light pouring out of Lisa's room. Lisa invited me into her room. What left me speechless wasn't that her room was all pink and girly. In fact, if that were the case, I would have just laughed my head off before I'd feel any surprise. Lisa's room was a simple room, perhaps a little more crowded than mine, and it came with a bed and a desk. There was a good reason for the cramped feeling, though. There were real books lined up against one of the walls. Are these the real thing? That's right. They'd fetch a hefty price, too. Lisa pulled out a chair for me, and then she opened a drawer and took out a small bottle. Can you drink, Hal? For a second, I couldn't figure out who this Hal was until I quickly realized it was me. Perhaps it caught me by surprise, but it felt kind of odd and tingly. You mean alcohol? Or perhaps you've never had any? I'm not some loser. And I was totally a loser when I proclaimed that. Lisa was really good at making people dance on her palm. Or perhaps I really was a kid after all. Well, gotta try it to really know it. She then poured some into a cheap-looking silvery cup and handed it to me. It was an amber liquid, and the whiff I had of it was quite smoky. Don't drink it all in one gulp. I thought I was being treated like a kid again and was about to drink it all down to show her, but she managed to slip some words in before that happened. I'd like you to savor the flavor. This woman was truly underhanded. With a sulking face, I gave it a taste and was on the verge of coughing. What did you want to talk about? Or did you just want to booze me up? Well, it's not really that. There was something else I wanted to talk about today. Today? Yep. When Mr. Toyama came today, what really happened? Lisa swished the cup in front of her and stared down at it. As I dawdled, Lisa looked back up and continued. Agana really can't keep a poker face about things, and, well, you're kind of the same. Quiet. But I'm really happy that you covered for her, because shaking hands isn't really needed to make up. Given the smile on Lisa's face as she said this, I could only begrudgingly accept that I was also happy about it. However, I couldn't just casually say yes to her. Knowing full well that I was being childish again, I lowered my voice as much as possible to give my reply. Not even I'm that petty-minded. Yep, I also believe that you weren't. Lisa sipped some liquor and swallowed it down gently. When I had drunk some, I felt like someone shoved a smokestack in my mouth, but the way that Lisa drank it was very fitting. This made Lisa irrefutably look like an adult and me look like a child. However, I didn't think Lisa was doing this to look like an adult or anything. Rather, it appeared she might have been using it to loosen her lips. So what happened? I don't know the details since I came in halfway. Okay. Well, I can imagine what happened. When I returned, there was a big commotion. The old geezer was livid, throwing sofas and stuff around on a rampage. And, well, that girl was like her usual self. Agana. Agana was like her usual self. Totally angry and belligerent while at the same time trembling. Sheesh. So then what happened? And then I instantly thought it was some burglar, smacked him down, restrained him, and shut him up. And while I was listening to the accounts of what happened, I realized that this old guy was probably not at fault and released him, and then paid off the interest. That's all. Lisa was staring at the cup for a second, then took another drink as if to drink away a sigh, and then asked me, So, what about the lilies? Lilies? Oh, that girl. Agana told me that there had to be 7, so I got some from her. Wait, how do you know that? Of course I know. Where do you think the laundry gets hung out to dry? Lisa rolled her eyes while asking me that. Oh, yeah. I guess they're by the garden with the flower bed on the 3rd level. Furthermore, the ones in the vase were something given to me, and the ones in the flower bed were ones I grew. I was really depressed that 2 of them had been uprooted. When I came back down the living room and saw the dirt-laden roots in the garbage and the smush lilies thrown in with them together. Well, let's say you don't have to be Einstein to figure out what kind of what happened. Running deduction, but could I ask something? What? Why would Agana want to hide this incident from you? It's not like it was the first time Agana had looked down on people and pissed them off. Besides, this Mr. Toyama, what's his face, didn't appear to be some elite guest whom you should upset at any cost. However, Agana did everything she could to hide the incident, or perhaps she was overly concerned about the thing with the lilies and tried to hide everything. While I was pondering such things, Lisa slowly wet her lips with the liquor. She thinks the debt was her fault. Oh. Well, the fog lifted on something rather unexpected. Well, I guess I was originally at fault. I had lost a book I borrowed from the university. I guess it did look like something that belonged in a trash heap, so perhaps that child threw it away. However, even I wasn't totally sure. Besides, I was kind of sloppy with it as well, so of course I couldn't really blame her if it were the case. But she was really set in her ways and was really obsessed with that incident. I see. Well, you managed to square it away using money, right? If you put it that way, it saves me a lot of talking. But it wasn't just a small amount of money, and since we were poor, we had to borrow the money to pay the fine. The banks wouldn't even give us the light of day, so the only people who lent us money were locals like Mr. Toyama. He's a good guy. He even asked for collateral when lending us the money. Was he an idiot? The interest was pretty low, too. What? The interest wasn't that low? Don't be an idiot, it was quite low. Deposit interest rates at the bank started at around 3%, right? Just storing it at the bank earned you 3% interest. So lending money to some penniless person at 6% with no collateral must have been a sure sign of madness. I didn't know. Aren't you an adult? Lisa smiled bitterly at my exasperated exclamation and just shrugged. So, Agana also knew this guy was an idiot, but how does that turn into the reason to hide the scuffle from you? The dots aren't connecting for me. Lisa chuckled faintly at my words. For a second there, I thought she was trying to dodge the question, so I started to talk again. However, I realized that wasn't the case and clammed my mouth shut. Lisa's smile was quite sad. This was the first time I realized that people can laugh with such a sad face. I really think I can trust you now. What's with you all of a sudden? I'm not trying to flatter you. You can somewhat figure out what people are really like inside after seeing their various aspects. You try to act all mean and stuff, but you really are a good kid instead. I couldn't get angry at Lisa's serious face, even while I was thinking the whole time that she was making fun of me. And that's why I'm going to tell you. Got it? Lisa clung onto the silver-colored cup in her hand as if her life depended on it. I once got really angry at her for that before. Got angry at her for Agana intentionally trying to piss off Mr. Toyama. I guess that really was the case. Yep, she would try her best to anger him when I wasn't looking. And furthermore, as you said, she was actually afraid. I recounted my memory of Agana defiantly yelling angrily at her with her body flush against the wall, the corners of her eyes totally red and her hands trembling. You know the reason for that? No. Well, even I didn't know at first. However, when I yelled at her the first time for it, she said this. She said, even if you had no money to pay it back, everything would be solved if you just shipped me off, right? What? I guess normally you wouldn't know what that was all about. However, I immediately realized what she meant. When I was back on Earth, such stories were a dime a dozen. Her reply came as she stared blankly and deeply into her cup. I was assaulted by the premonition of something even worse than I could totally hate. Something worse than dog crap. She wouldn't tell me her personal story, so this is all just conjecture. But I came to the conviction that she was bought with money. You can't be. Before I could finish my my sentence, the root of my tongue had frozen completely solid. Many of the folks from my village came from the darkest corners of the earth. There were a lot of cheerful dudes, but I had the feeling that they were trying to make up for something. They said there were places on Earth that people from more affluent countries would overlook, even if such places were in said countries. The lunar metropolis was a powerful contraption to extract money from Earth. It was a tool to make money using various methods. So it wouldn't be strange if there existed things like the ones they talked about. In fact, it would be odd if there weren't. So adopting a talented child would be a rare occurrence, right? Even if the adopter didn't feel that way, it is quite possible for the adopted to feel that she or she had been bought. Of course, there are such tragedies when children are being bought and sold. Mrs. Tone didn't sound like she was just rambling about the matter. While I considered Lisa was quite an annoying woman, I also felt she was someone whose feet were firmly planted on the ground. Lisa probably investigated the matter herself. Agana's math talents are truly marvelous. After all, she got full marks on the entry design for Lunar City University. She'd definitely be able to get a scholarship to the point of even having clothing, food, and lodging being covered by the university. Agana had to be looking towards that, but she'd definitely not say a word of it. Guess what she's most interested in right now? Making money. A bad taste spread through my mouth. Even if I wanted to have my own beliefs about a person while not knowing anything about that person, having the truth laid bare before me would only naturally incur this reaction. I think she takes it on others because of all the pain she endured. If she put all her strength into enduring her pain, she wouldn't be able to control herself. But a debt is just a debt, and it's not like you couldn't pay it back, right? It's not like that girl needed to sell herself. Now, being able to understand exactly what it meant to sell oneself, I felt like I'd said something quite stupid. But Agana was apparently quite talented, and she didn't look bad either. When push comes to shove, that method of selling would work. That's right. That's what I wanted to say, but Lisa heaved a big sigh and continued drinking. After gulping down one, she roughly poured herself some more. I'll pay it back. Actually, even right now. What? I looked at Lisa in amazement, and then I followed up my exclamation. You're gonna sell yourself? Lisa spewed out her liquor and started coughing. Gross. Sheesh, don't say such bizarre things. Well, it's kind of how the conversation flowed. Man, it probably wasn't too far off the mark. I do have things to sell. However, they're pretty much a part of me, so I was hesitant at selling them. Lisa looked up, staring off into space like some precocious child observing the stars for the first time. However, what she was staring at wasn't the far-off nebulae, but rather something closer. The bookshelves. After I noticed what she was looking at, she sighed and continued. It's like you running away from not wanting to work. I've been trying to avoid the problem. If I sold a few of the books lining these shelves, I'd be able to pay back the loan. Are they really that awesome? As time passes, the amount of books can't increase, they can only decrease. And in that sense, they are precious. A part of the font of human language rests upon these books, and so in that sense, they are awesome. But stop copying me. Well, it's not like life would be harder without them, so in that sense, they aren't that great. But selling them would feel like ripping out a part of my own body. I still have no clue what you're spouting. Besides, if you sold them, could I just buy them again later? My problems would be a lot simpler if that were the case. You can't buy them again? Books like these aren't ones you'll find anywhere, and they're not books that everyone's going to want. Those people who want them are fanatic about them, and once they get their hands on them, it's very rare they want to get rid of them. Even on Earth, we only have few books of this type exchange hands per year, probably. Therefore, if I put these up for sale, I'd definitely find a buyer, but there's a very good chance I'll never get them back again. And it's not like I'm waiting for them to appreciate and value to sell them. They're more like friends and comrades to me, if you get my meaning. I felt something from the glimpse Lisa threw at me. Putting comrades up for sale would definitely yield buyers, but once your comrades are sold, you'll never get them back. And that's why I've been dragging my feet. If I found an adult dragging their feet on something they should be doing, I totally want to kick their butt and split on them. However, even with those beliefs, I couldn't herself into thinking that in front of Lisa. I could see that Lisa really loved those books like real people who were friends and comrades. The sight of her standing in front of the bookcase, leaning on the bed and speaking absentmindedly, gave the impression of a girl at her wit's end. And that wasn't something shameful. If this was something that would drive even Lisa to her wit's end, then it must be something truly formidable. And that must be, without a doubt, her love for books. Well, I guess you'll just have to pay it back bit by bit. Well, you're right, that's the case, but... As if to proclaim her return to reality, she let out an adult yet bitter smile and polished off the rest of the liquor in her cup easily. You're the same, aren't you? In 20 days, I'll have you find some way to make money. In 20 days, huh? Revealing no signs about my stock, trainer replied sulkily. Well, as you can see, I'm really in no position to lecture you. However, I do have one thing to say. Yeah? That stuff about Agana. Oh, yeah. I have a wish to ask of you. What, like, could you please get along with her because of her sad predicament? Lisa kept mimicking so much that I decided to mimic her in return. I thought she'd get mad, but getting such moral education stuff pushed on me made me kind of mad too, so we were even. This was the mood, after all. Why would you consider loading yourself with baggage if you're going to be flying up? You got it. However, Lisa didn't get angry. Instead, she poured herself some more liquor and wet her lips with it. Actually, it's a little different from wanting you to get along with her. It's possible for people to have disagreements, right? I think Agana and I are like that. That's probably the case. However, when Agana's glaring down at you, you've stopped instantly doing things in response to intentionally upset her, right? You've got a point there. That's good enough. What I want you to do is to acknowledge her. Acknowledge? Yep. People's existences are such ephemeral things. Wasn't there that thing from old Fae legends? That the Fae can continue to exist as long as people believe in their existence? So if you don't actually understand what she's talking about here, if you've ever seen Peter Pan or any of the renditions, this is why Tinkerbell gets sick when people say if someone says that they do not believe in fairies. And then they either clap or say they do believe in fairies or something to heal her, etc., etc. That actually is a thing. And some of you are actually probably familiar with it if you've ever seen Peter Pan. Once people forgot about them, then they couldn't continue to exist. Have you heard about something similar to that? That reminds me, I could do folklore on PS3 if you guys are really interested about fairies, but that's going to be a few months down the road. Unfortunately, no. There were tales like that, and it's not just limited to Fae. Anyone would be happy if they got complimented, and having someone worry about you allows you to believe that you are a meaningful existence to them. People can't think of themselves as being human if they're all alone. No way. It's true. There's been examples on Earth where someone who grew up with dogs would only think of themselves as dogs. To acknowledge someone is to give a proper response to them, even if that were to be one of disgust. And in case you're wondering about this, this is also true. They're referring to things like feral children. To stick with the whole Disney movie analogies, I guess, this would be Mowgli in the Jungle Book. He's a kid raised in the wild. Tarzan also applies to this since he believes himself to be a gorilla. They don't really see themselves as humans. They see themselves as their pack, their pride, or whatever that group of animals is called. And as I said, with feral children, this is something that does occur in nature. It's rare, but it does happen. Although it doesn't really happen with Romulus and Remus, you know. But that's a topic for another time. Lisa took a breath and stared at me. It became a bit harder for me to breathe. Lisa had always been caring to me. Deciding to answer her pointless questions was in part because she respected me. I don't mind if you guys have arguments, and I don't think you guys are such opposites either. What? Yeah, right. Well, and the one thing I would ask of you the most is... Lisa cut off my words, stood up from the bed, and held my hands. Don't ignore her. She has lost all faith in her self-worth. It can't be healthy for someone to think that selling herself would be the way to pay back a debt. I want to say that everyone is equal before the Lord, but before that, I want her to never forget that she is a human being and not just some item. I know that it's the moon, and that the trend here is that anything that can't be turned into money is worthless, but those last words skewered my heart. And I'm sure Lisa saw through to my expression of pain at that moment. Lisa looked at me and chuckled lightly. I tried to hide my embarrassment. I thought about lashing back in anger, but it didn't happen. Since at that moment, Lisa embraced me softly. Hal, you have a good sense of self, and that was definitely because of your parents. Yeah, right, my parents. The way they thought were probably totally different, but I believe they must have said things to you to the point where you got sick of it. I couldn't object because she got it precisely. After all, I left my village because my freaking parents' unmovable convictions made me want to puke. However, that is in itself the marvelous mark of love, since if they didn't care about you, they wouldn't do that. And if you didn't have those freaking annoying parents, it would have been very hard to collect your thoughts, right? I made a clearly bitter face at being mimicked again, and Lisa chuckled after noticing it indirectly. Lisa's breathing lightly brushed my right ear, and it was a ticklish sensation that made me sleepy. I shelter those who run away from home with no place to go to, because I believe they need someone to acknowledge them. In any case, the moon is a busy place, a bustling and stimulating place like you said, so most people have no time to care about others, right? But I received the Lord's teachings, so I feel like I'd be able to do something like that. Lisa stepped back and picked up the cup I was holding with the liquor in it. What do you think? She posed me the question at the end. I'd totally salute someone who wasn't able to refuse at this point. However, much to my chagrin, I didn't understand what Lisa was trying to get across. I didn't want to admit that those annoying parents loved me even if I were on my deathbed, but I felt like I was able to figure out what I needed to succeed on the moon because of them. It was kind of like teaching me what not to do. And besides, even if their way of thinking was different, it was true that what I learned from those guys in the village helped me many a time. Concern, one's value as a human. The story still felt fishy to me, but at least it seemed that Agana hadn't been leading such a happy life. Thus, at least being a bit kinder to her wasn't all that bad. Besides, whether I argued with her or whatever, as long as I didn't ignore her, it would be fine. I looked back at Lisa and replied woodenly, I get it. And at that moment, Lisa beamed a warm smile. Thank you. Well, let's keep what we talked about today a secret, okay? And alcohol seems to be a bit too early for you, so don't drink it while I'm not here, okay? Instead of complaining about her nagging, I resorted to spitting out my breath as if I were clicking my tongue. I realized it was something childish, though I get laughed at by Lisa, but I had no choice. Well, I was kind of disappointed after she said thanks to me. It would have been bad if she found out what I was thinking. I had totally thought that she'd hug me again. Crap, stop it, I'm being an idiot. Good night. Her words as she closed the door stuck with me for some time. The next day marked the first rainfall in a long while on the moon. Of course, it wasn't some natural phenomenon, but rain generated on a managed schedule. There were air purification mechanisms all over the place. However, the moon's low gravity allowed dust particles generated from people's everyday living and erosion of buildings to kick up into the air easily. Therefore, washing everything down with some rain was more effective. And so, since morning, water had passed through the conduits spread along the seams of the dome, and fallen quietly from the sky as rain. Furthermore, the citizens managed to replicate the feel of a cloudy sky by lowering the visibility. I'd heard that on Earth sometimes houses would get blown away or everything would be flooded as far as the eye could see. Meanwhile on the moon, all we'd get would be the same gentle rain. However, I guess the rain did put a damper on me. It was probably because the rainy days were planned out in advance and stores were often closed due to the lack of foot traffic in the city. A hush fell over everything. I did some light exercises and left my room while hugging my computer. The living room was dim, even with the lights on. Lisa and Agana were in the middle of having some bread. Oh, good morning. Hey. With my curt reply, I placed my computer on the table and opened the display. It was still about an hour before the markets opened, but I wanted to check the news. You sure are some junkie. How many slices of bread do you want? One slice. Just one slice? You're a guy, you know. Is that enough? Okay, then 2 slices. I was looking at the screen when I answered, and I could hear Lisa muttering complaints about my reply. But she seemed to be having fun, so I didn't really get it. Glancing over sideways at Lisa naturally put Agana into my field of vision. I felt a little self-conscious after that long talk with Lisa yesterday, but Agana was ignoring me as usual, quietly nibbling on her bread without giving me a glance. Her smooth black hair and thin fingers felt like artificial creations. Her small mouth made me wonder if it was even big enough for everyday necessities, and she also had those spunky eyes. If you ignored her personality and just judged by her looks, I felt that it certainly wouldn't be odd if there were people who were willing to buy her with money. And the moon was filled with people who had that type of money. On average, any person would be able to make from 2 to 3 million rubles in his lifetime. Thus, to buy that girl 5 million rubles would be plenty. This was certainly an amount that people at the head of the pack of the moon would be able to afford. Buying people with money. As a concept, I thought it was actually pretty natural. However, once face to face with someone who was actually involved in the matter, I had a very strange feeling about it, even before mentioning pity. What? I snapped back to reality when Agana cast a suspicious gaze at me. It turned out I'd been staring at Agana without realizing it. She stared at me with suspicion for a while, then looked around herself and wiped her mouth. Realizing there was nothing clinging to her mouth, she continued to stare at me suspiciously. There's nothing stuck to it. I checked before you said anything anyway. It was her usual bad-tempered tone, but for some reason I wasn't really pissed off by it. If I calmed down and listened to what she said, it's not like it was anything particularly bizarre. It wasn't like I was going to ignore her, even if I could see Lisa looking at me worriedly from behind Agana. Hey girl, what's with that old black get-up all the time? What about it? Is it really any of your business? I thought that would have been her follow-up. Thinking about it calmly, though, I wonder if it might be a real question rather than a rhetorical quip. If I placed myself in her shoes, I'd definitely ask something similar if I'd just been stared at, then asked about my clothing. I shrugged and said, well, I was kind of curious since you always dress the same. Well, aren't you the same, Brad? I guess I could deal with an answer. In that moment, Lisa, who'd been placing toast on the plates, cut in. Agana, he's Hal, not Brad. Well, he called me Hey Girl. Hal? While spreading butter on her bread, Lisa called my name while jerking her chin lightly in Agana's direction. Agana. What, is she trying to treat us like dogs? Well, I guess being stubborn would be something only a child would do. I opened my mouth in resignation. Oh, Miss Agana, I was just curious as to why you possess clothes which all bear the same appearance. I recalled what I learned in grade school. Good job. And Lisa replied like a teacher. Okay, Agana. Lisa turned towards Agana, and Agana was surprisingly hesitant. I felt like she'd been looking back and forth between my face and Lisa's face at least twice now. The hesitant Agana was like a little animal that had been squirted with a water bottle. Well, you're the same, Hal. Good. Well done. This was the first time I saw Agana fumble at words. If not for her spoiled princess demeanor, she had as much emotion as a metallic robot. But with this, she immediately started looking more girlish. I couldn't help feeling that I was just a simple guy. Agana's looks, at least, were cute. Well, about the exchange we just had, I do have some opinions of my own. Lisa said as she handed me a slice of bread, and both Agana and I looked at her. She cleared her throat and said, "You two, be more conscious about how you're dressed." Looking over her synchronized eyebrow furrow, she continued. Lavish decorations lead to room. Going around in rags leads to room as well. It's kind of nice when you can still wear them, though. Frugality is important, but so is looking proper. Mine aren't rags. Yeah, but you only have one set of those. Huh? Lisa and Agana turned together to look at me after my exclamation. Agana proceeded to repeat herself. Mine are not rags. I wrinkled my upper lip. And they don't stink. With that line, I became rather uneasy than mad. It's starting to smell again? I lost trust in myself and ended up trying to smell myself. Lisa smiled brightly. No, you're okay. For now, at least. Oh, so I was fine all along. But you stunk before. Oh, shut up. Shut up. My brows were fully wrinkled. Being asked to repeat myself directly took me off a bit. As we glared at each other intensely, Lisa tapped her fork on the plate. Stop it, you two. Besides, both of you only have one set of clothing. This is kind of rare around here. Lisa cut off her impending buds by continuing to talk. Agana, you don't have classes today, right? Lisa suddenly changed the topic, but Agana was unfazed and answered immediately. Yes. And Hal, you're free this evening. When I got asked, I ended up answering in stupid frankness. Well, it's after 5. Wait, don't tell me. That's right. When the rain stops in the evening, the two of you go shop for clothes. The shopping center on the second block has a ton of inexpensive clothing stores. Agana and I looked at each other. Your answer? Agana turned to Lisa when she asked that, like one of Pavlov's trained dogs. And after turning to Lisa, she made a face, her way of saying, oh shoot. Lisa looked straight back at her and smiled. I guess Lisa's smile was unblockable from the point of view of Agana, who supposedly threw away a precious book on Lisa and landing the church in a huge amount of debt. Staring down slightly and resigning herself to her decision, she replied in her usual manner. Yes. What about you, Hal? If I had said no here, we'd know immediately it was being a child. Furthermore, I was neither worse nor obtuse enough to be able to stand being called smelly all the time. However, I just couldn't shake the principle of it being unnecessary spending. I just looked over my clothing futilely one last time, Lisa had been looking at me, smiling. At that moment, I realized why Lisa appeared so mature. This woman with just a smile is able to display a plethora of emotions. Must be due to being older. I sighed my resignation and replied, Alright, I got it. Good. She was smiling happily when she said that. Maybe it was due to the weather, but the markets today didn't really have any particular momentum, making my job difficult. Stocks could only move either up or down, and so on a day where there was no clear direction of movement, trading strategies I'd usually use yielded nothing for me to do. For example, there were times when the stocks would all tumble because of some random trigger. As a result of my gluing my eyes to the news, I realized that it didn't matter exactly what triggered it. It might be, for example, that a large enterprise's fiscal reports were bad, or a politician of a developed country was caught in some immoral scandal, or perhaps that the planets had aligned. I knew that on those days it didn't matter whether a particular company had good earnings or bad earnings. Its stock would get dragged down in price anyway. Hence, on those days I'd watch the display without trading, seeking out stocks that had been dragged down by the general sentiment in the market. It's strange. But on those days when stocks would fall for some random trivial reason, I'd always see people selling off as if the world were ending soon. These cowards would sell off that day, but then would rally the next. On the other hand, when the markets were on a bull run, it'd become a chaotic festival, with people selling and buying stocks one after another. But on dull days like this, I could buy some stock for 10 rubles, and remain at 10 rubles for the rest of the day. And if it did that, I'd definitely lose out due to the commissions. I was scoping out the situation during morning trading, but it looked like it was going to be like this for the whole day. On these days, if I forced myself to do some trading, I'd only end up losing in the end. Even disregarding that, my recent losses had started standing out, so I didn't push myself and decided to close the computer. But man, the rain. It was dark outside and the drizzle continued. Outside my window was a narrow alley, so no one passed by. Shutting down the computer made the room silent except for the sound of raindrops hitting the ground under the eaves. Agana should be in the next room over, but it was silent as usual. Wonder what I should do. This was the problem once I decided to not trade for the day. I'd end up not being able to figure out what to do. Anyway, I decided to leave my room and walk down the dim hallways towards the living room. Entering the living room, I saw Lisa reading a book while sitting on the shabby sofa. Oh? I guess Lisa must have noticed my footsteps as she turned towards me. I didn't answer immediately, instead took some orange juice from the fridge and poured some into a cup. Well, it would probably be more authentic for some middle-class family from the White Belt, but around here, the orange juice was just some orange-colored, sweet-tasting chemical concoction. Not working on the computer today? Can't get in the mood. Oh yeah? Well, I guess you do have those days. Lisa wasn't particularly interested and returned to reading her book. It wasn't some digitized version, but the real deal. When her slender fingers flipped a page, it made an unreliable sound. What are you reading? Lisa looked at me and paused for a second. It looked looked like she was thinking about how to answer my question. It's a very old book you totally wouldn't get. Of course, that totally wouldn't get was her mimicking me. When I made a face, she turned back to her book, her shoulders shaking with the amusement of a child. Fraser's The Golden Bough. What? It's a book of religious stories from all over the world collected by some curious Englishman more than 100 years ago. On rainy days, I start wanting to read this for some reason. Lisa flipped the page again while talking. Is it interesting? Well, the book itself doesn't present any clear conclusions. To be honest, there's a ton of falsehoods in here as well. However, it is the distillation of millennia of human culture, so... At that point, Lisa stopped to press her face to a page as if she were savoring the scent of the book. Perhaps it's just as appropriate for a Christian like me to be reading this book while it's raining on the moon. Totally not getting it. There's that saying that you shouldn't underestimate the world. I got the feeling that she dodged the question, treating me as a kid again, and I scratched my head lightly. So in the end, it's just an elegant way of passing the time, right? Exactly. Her simple reply actually made it more uninteresting. In other words, it was pretty stupid to continue, and I heaved a sigh. Speaking of which, you sure look bored. I guess. My goodness, a proper young person being idle isn't a good thing. On days like this, it's best to stay put. Well, I agree with that, but there is a problem. A problem? Of course there is. It's unhealthy for a young man to merely listlessly wander around all day. Well, there isn't really anything for me to do, so what should I be doing? There's nothing? What, are you going to suggest I go study or something? Lisa smiled with a troubled face. Do I look like the type of person to say that? Surprisingly, no. She then laughed at my response. You don't have any hobbies other than your computer thing. Hobbies? I furrowed my brows instinctively and shot back a reply. Hobby? You're calling this a hobby? Don't tell me you don't actually have anything else. What? I couldn't shrink back from Lisa's serious gaze. No problem with that. Oh? I totally don't have time for no hobbies. I said that from the bottom of my heart, but it ended up sounding like an excuse. I needed to win at the stock market to survive. I needed to excel at the stock market for my dreams. If there's one thing I lived for, I couldn't imagine it being anything other than staying where no one had stood before. I had no time to do leisurely things Lisa would do, like passing the time reading useless books from the annals of history. It was true that currently I had nothing to do and was just wandering around, but that was because trade was unexpectedly not going too well. Well, if you're okay with it, that's fine, I guess. After staring at me for a few moments, she returned to her book. Part of me wasn't quite satisfied with something, but I couldn't pinpoint what. Unable to figure it out, I continued to stare at Lisa, who turned a page and said, Well, you know the saying, man does not live by bread alone. What? I responded in earnest because I actually didn't understand, but Lisa didn't give me a reply. She was deep into her book as if I had simply disappeared. I guess it's some book more than a century old about the gods of Earth filled with mountains of lies. It'd be impossible to imagine anyone other than Lisa reading such a book on the moon. It's not like there'd be a hobby as pure as this. Usually I just write off some idiot wasting their precious life on useless things, but right now I felt as if I were on the losing side for some reason. I was not mistaken to dedicate my daily life to stock trading, and right now there was a good reason for not trying to push myself to trade. However, I felt uneasy, getting the feeling that I'd be very mistaken to simply stand here. But it was true that I simply wasn't in the mood today. It was a pain to search through stocks, even though I decided not to trade today, so I also didn't want to return to my room with my computer. I wonder if my feeling like crap was also a product of the rain. As I was staring out the window, I heard a soft pam. Looking in the direction of the sound, I noticed Lisa had closed the book, and then she laughed in resignation. Oh well, big sis Lisa here will play with you. It's not like I'm asking for that. Oh really? With that, she simply pulled back. I was actually happy inside about her offer, and thus I regretted my childishness. However, Lisa apparently was able to sense my actual feelings and see through my act, and then she chuckled and stared at me leisurely. boys sure are stubborn. It was true that I didn't have a clue as to what I should do with my spare time. And besides, if I became pig-headed here, I'd totally pass out thinking about my stupidity later. But it wasn't the label where I could just say, hey, let's play. I was hesitant for a bit, then conflicted. Finally, I ended up announcing my surrender with a sigh. I wanted to at least stress that I was going along with this because I had no other options. So what shall we do? Since we have a computer, want to play some games? Or maybe we should bake some cookies. Cookies? Is this supposed to be her talking because her name isn't here? There's a closed quotation but not an open one. Oh, you want to bake some cookie? You want to make some cookies? Well, that means Agana could have some later, so let's do that. Well, it's not... Even though I voiced my complaints, they didn't reach Lisa's ears. She got up from the sofa and performed a big stretch towards the ceiling. It's been a while. Wonder if I'm still any good at baking them. Oh well. I gave up and looked at Lisa. Well, let's start with some cleanup, and then we'd gather the ingredients. It'd be okay to rush past that if we were making something else, but with sweets, preparation and process is quite important. Oh yeah? If we're going to do it, we might as well make some fantastic cookies. Yep, she sure looked like a school teacher. Well, let's first ready the utensils. Okay. Following Lisa's instructions, I collected the utensils and set them on the table. Since it would be bad to get your clothes dirty, here, put this on. Lisa handed me an apron. This was something she'd always done in making dinner. If I put this on, what are you going to use? Me? Since I'm just giving directions, I wouldn't need one. What? Okay, let's first get 150 grams of butter. Here. 150? Oh, the scale is calibrated for Earth use. Just divide by 6 and you'll be fine. What's next? 200 grams of cake flour. That doesn't divide evenly. Treat it like real life and make compromises. Such nonsense. This will be fine, right? What's next? That should come out to be like 31 to 32 grams, I think. Wait, that's a little short. Yeah, it'd be 33, I think. Such nonsense. This will be fine, right? What's next? 70 grams of granulated sugar, a bit of baking powder. It does call for 1 egg yolk, but I guess a whole egg would be fine too. Can you crack an egg? I can only separate out a yolk, you know. Okay, once you place all those on the table, spread out a paper towel beneath and sift the cake flour well. If we did a half-hearted job here, the flour would be all clumped up. Oh yeah, I guess I've seen something similar in the kitchen before. While recalling something I'd seen ages ago, I tapped the sieve, sprinkling the flour down. Your mom's still making cookies, huh? I wonder if mine would be a match for them. No idea. I'm a bit young to be able to pick up a wife's taste, so I guess it wouldn't be surprising if I lost. I ignored her words and continued to sift the flour. Meanwhile, Lisa poured hot water from a pot into a large bowl. What are you doing? Gotta soften the butter a bit. Are you done with the sifting? Something like this, right? Okay, here. She handed me a small bowl of butter and a whisk. What? Slightly dip the bowl with the butter into the hot water, then slowly stir while the butter is softening. Just softening the butter, so don't melt it. Afterwards, just keep stirring. Don't give such difficult instructions. You must take a shot at everything in life. I heaved a sigh and sank down the bowl into the hot water, then started letting the butter melt a little, just as I was told. Next to me, Lisa the foreman was staring at me, shining out things on a whim like, you're pushing it too much, or put more guts into it. Finally, the butter had become somewhat loose, and I broke it up forcefully and mashed it down. So, how long do I keep stirring? Until it gets to be like melted vanilla ice cream. We don't have any electric mixers. We're in a low-gravity environment, so quick and plating. What has gravity got to do with it? I ended up hugging the bowl and started stirring it. At first it was just sticking to the stir, so I wasn't sure if I was mixing or just crushing it. But eventually it started turning viscous, so it felt more like mixing. Lisa added a pinch of salt, and then after mixing, dropped the egg in. Okay, keep on mixing, keep on mixing. Lisa of all people started talking in a strange rhythm. I was pretty much totally into it, mashing things around, and then Lisa lifted her head a bit. Oh, Agana! When I looked up from the bowl, Agana was frowning, looking this way, as upset as could be. We're making cookies. Want to come help too? I won't. Agana phrased it simply and walked across the living room to the bathroom. She hasn't been in this bad of a mood for a while. Isn't she always like this? If she's in a good mood, she'd ponder it a bit more before saying no. I see. With that, I started getting the feeling I was beginning to understand why Lisa bothered with me. I wonder if she got hit with that difficult of a problem. Lisa was gradually adding cake flour to the bowl, and I put my heart into mixing it so that it wouldn't clump up. At least she at least gets some motorized cooking equipments. So, how long do I keep mixing? A bit longer. Alright. No complaints, mister, since you're going to be enjoying some delicious cookies afterwards. I want to eat them without the manual labor. Stop quibbling. Lisa bopped me on the head and I brushed her hand away as though it were a nuisance. At that moment, Lisa's mobile terminal let out a ring. Oh, a phone call? Lisa got up from the table, picked up the terminal on the wall, and was surprised at the number. Sorry, just keep mixing this for a bit, okay? With that, she went in the direction of the bathroom. I could only hear her muffled voice through the door, but she sounded happy to me. I had inadvertently strained my ear to hear, probably just because of a little bit of jealousy on my part. And thus, a sudden ding-dong like the sound of notes on a dried-up xylophone gave me a fright, as though I'd been caught misbehaving. What? When I looked around, the door to the bathroom was open, and I could see Lisa's face as she was talking to the terminal. Can you hold on a second? Go get it. What? The door. Oh. It appeared the sound had come from the intercom. Setting the bowl down, I walked half-heartedly over towards the entrance of the church. Lisa went back into the bathroom and continued her conversation. But who would visit this place? Perhaps it was a certain Toyama who had come to collect debts again. While pondering that, I slid open the bolt and opened the door. Hey, our next new character. There stood a petite figure wearing a raincoat and staring down an electric notebook, typing away at it. Though, while it was a petite figure, there were bulges on either side of the hips, indicating that there were some large packages being transported. The figure was slim, but it was probably a boy. As I looked suspiciously at him, he started talking before looking up. Good afternoon, I'm with Kunko, with your usual vegetables, and I also have some questions for Miss... As he looked up, he froze. I could see beautiful blue eyes staring at me through large glasses. There were a few freckles around his small nose, so I realized he must have come from Earth when the UV is harsher. However, besides that, I could tell from one glance that he looked kind of dim-witted. Say what? When I asked him while he was just standing there, he took a big step back while keeping his eyes on me. It was midday, so there were passers-by as usual, missed the S-thing. He attracted some odd glances at me, didn't move his eyes away from me. And then he regained his senses, looked at his electronic notebook, surveyed the surroundings, and looked at me again. What is it? He shrugged his shoulders reflexively and then looked at me cautiously. This is the 6th Avenue Church, right? I pondered for a moment and then replied. No, that name does sound familiar. Is my teacher, Miss Agana, here? Miss Agana? I repeated his words and couldn't stop myself from giggling. I guess it was true that she was teaching. She's here. By the way, isn't it kind of dangerous to be standing there? After being told that, it looked like he finally realized he was smack dab in the middle of the road. Well, I thought he was kind of dim-witted, and I did admire his strong steps while he was stepping forward, carrying all that luggage. Looks like he was used to transporting large items. So, what was it again? Yes? Did you say something about vegetables? Yes, He cleared his throat and took in a big breath. My name is Chris Kuhn, and I'm from Kumko. No matter if you need fresh foods like vegetables or stationery, we are your one-stop source for delivery to anywhere on 6th Street. We at Kuhn await your orders. With that, he finished his clear speech and let go. He was probably totally drilled into it by his parents. Even if he stood up straight, he was clearly shorter than me. Agana was shorter than me, he was still a bit shorter than her. Oh well, I thought as I pulled back. If you're looking for Agana, she's inside. Thanks. I guess the fast talk only applied to his spiel, as the Chris I was looking at now averted gaze and walked into the church. At this point, I couldn't figure out if he was a guy or a girl. When he took off at the raincoat inside the church, my confidence fell even further. I need a drink, 1 second. Okay, I'm hoping my voice is a little more stable now. A threadbare sweatshirt that was obviously too large drooped over him. Below that were jeans with pant legs totally rolled up, as well as a pair of worn-down sneakers. His blonde hair was puffed up and rough, and if he never had used a comb, as if he had never used a comb in his whole life. However, when he folded up the raincoat and tried to jam it into the bag hanging by the cross straps over his shoulder, caught a peek of the chest area through the overly large neckline of the sweatshirt. My new hunch was that Chris was probably a girl. Aren't you supposed to be in school now? While feeling a bit of guilt, I closed the door and asked. Right now school's in lunch recess, so I'm doing the afternoon deliveries. I see. I guess you guys have long lunch breaks. Which means Chris is an elementary school student under 14. With a few exceptions, all the elementary schools on the moon have at least 2 hours of lunch recess. Since I didn't really go to school, I'd forgotten about it. You're here to study while delivering the groceries? How did you know? If left to her own devices, she'd probably just stand there looking lost, so I started making Chris walk forward with me behind her, as if I were driving chickens across around the yard. Did you say so before that you had some questions for Agana or something? Oh yeah. Even though Chris was very timid, she had purposeful strides. Her outfit was definitely that of low-income earners in the outer districts. They were probably immigrants who came here to do menial labor. Even though she wasn't quite that street smart, she made large deliveries to help out her family during lunch recess, and was even studying at the same time. While herding her like a farm chicken, I felt a little envious of her hardiness. When we returned to the living room, it looked like Lisa was done with her phone call and setting a microwave tray on the table. Oh, if it isn't Chris. Good afternoon. Right, I guess today was the usual delivery day. I totally forgot about it. Sounds like there's a lot you forget. She wasn't angry at my jab and merely shrugged. Really, this is the one thing I just can't fix, I guess. While talking, Lisa accepted the vegetables and wheat from Chris's giant bag. This time there was a lot. There wasn't a mistake, was there? No problems here. Hal over there is also living here now. Before your delivery, we'd run out of ingredients, so I'd gone elsewhere to pick up some personally. So that's it. I had heard that you went to some other store to shop, and I was wondering if it was because I delivered the wrong amount. She was timid and a worrywart. Before Lisa said anything, she rubbed Chris's head gently. This must have been more effective than telling her 100 times not to worry. So I guess you're here for Agana? Hal. I had taken the bowl from Lisa and was stirring its contents when I heard my name mentioned and looked up. What? Go get Agana for me. Alright. Oh. Or would you like to make some cookies with us, Chris? I got up from the chair and looked in Chris's direction. It would be best if I didn't have to go call Agana. After looking back and forth between the two of us, she replied while staring at the floor. I have a question about a problem, Mando. Well, I'll give the cookies to Agana so she can bring it to class tomorrow, so please look forward to them, okay? Okay. That answer was unexpectedly full of energy, and Lisa was also smiling with a satisfied look on her face. I went over to call Agana. When she peered out from the door after I knocked, I started wondering if Agana and Chris were really both from the same species. Agana didn't utter a word while staring at me without opening the door all the way. Perhaps she really was in a bad mood. What? Someone named Chris is here. Said there was something about a problem she couldn't solve? With that, Agana raised an eyebrow and then nodded slowly. I see. She nodded and was about to step back into her room for a bit. Then she opened the door further and looked down the hall. At that moment, Chris was coming over clutching her electronic notebook, which she probably used for her studies. Lisa said that she's using the table, so I've got it. Agana nodded, proceeded to invite Chris in, then told me off. You're in the way. Well, being somewhat irritated, I stepped out of the way because I was actually blocking the entrance to the room. I sent Chris in with an apologetic face. I couldn't believe that someone like Chris would be so attached to Agana. The room was full of wonders, I thought, as I headed back to the living room. Alright, I guess this is pretty much it. So we spin around the contents of the bowl while mixing. It's done. All that's left is to bake them. Easy, isn't it? It was pretty tiring, though. Alright. Can you like pieces of dough over here, Haley? Don't get me. The cookies will turn out delicious because you did it till the end. I wanted to question the basis of that claim, but it wasn't like she gave me a proper answer anyway. Giving up, I used a spoon to scoop up some dough and laid it on the microwave tray covered with baking paper. Well then, now that this is done, shall we go get some lunch? Al, you're eating too, right? As long as it doesn't cost any extra. Well, aren't you cute? In either case, I'm not charging you anything, so come eat. Besides, Chris is here today. I was thinking about doing something. Doesn't she eat at school? I kind of blurted out my response nonchalantly, but Lisa smiled at me with a troubled face. There aren't many things that come for free on the moon. I thought back to Chris's small and slim figure. Maybe she didn't have any money to eat lunch. And she came here for Agana's math instruction. Lisa said she was cleaning the cooking implements that we had finished using. Chris is also unbelievably smart, but realistically speaking, she wouldn't be able to move onward with her education without a scholarship. Apparently she's going to hone her best subject, math, and then use that to earn a scholarship to go on to college. In other words, this was a one-shot investment aimed at achieving that goal. Her timidness was only on the surface. Deep down, she was a genius. I felt pinpricks on my heart when I saw people like this who came from the earth. I knew it was meaningless annoyance and envy, but I couldn't do much about it. Well, the truly terrifying one would be Agana, though. I heard that Chris, who no one would be able to teach math to at school, actually called her a genius. When she grows up, she thinks that she'll be able to immediately skip into graduate school with a scholarship. I wasn't the type to be truly happy at hearing praise. All this about Agana made me think that she probably really was something. As far as math is concerned. However, both of them have some personality issues. Is everyone who's good at math this way? With my nest, Lisa pondered for a moment and chuckled. Well, I wouldn't say they have personality issues, but they do have an air of an artist. Chris also says she would ponder through problems while sitting in places with nice views, so... Well, I guess being a genius needs something to balance it out. I started to wonder whether my recent issues with that tray wall had to do with the disappearance of this excitement I felt. Well, I didn't really have a place to settle down. Not to mention Agana, but Chris, if you listen to her, sounded like she was built on stubbornness as well. It wasn't a simple affair to skip lunch to learn from Agana, coming here for studying while running errands during breaks during the school day. However, once I thought that far, I suddenly realized something. If Agana were that talented in math, could she be of use in trading? What is it? Nothing. I had stopped setting down the cookie dough, so I started up again hurriedly. But that idea was still bouncing around in my head. When I had started trading, I tried out various techniques. However, the one thing I didn't try was to use math for trading. A field with such a dignified title as financial engineering was something that would be way too difficult for someone like me who never really went to school. It was something you learned in graduate school after learning math as an undergrad, so it wasn't something I could really try out. But what about Agana, who was quite talented in math? I had finished laying out the cookies and felt that it would be a good idea to look into this further. All done? Yeah. Even before baking them, it looked as if the raw cookies were about to give off a buttery scent. Lisa picked up the tray, put it in the microwave, and gave the dial a good twist. Alright, let's go get some lunch, okay? In sync with her suggestion, I took off my apron and shoved it at Lisa. Don't need lunch. Hey, wait, Hal! I ignored Lisa's demands and ran back to my room. And then I turned to my computer and raced to open the search engine. Investment methods using math were something that the pros used to make boatloads of cash. There was nothing more encouraging than being able to use that. Bearing that hope in heart, I dove into the net.